Hey everyone, welcome to another creative interview here with Empire's Comics Vault on YouTube. What we like to do is not only do we like to get people in the shop down here to talk to us about their creations, their process, their history, but with people who are not in our area, we like to do the Google Hangouts so that we can learn more about them and you can watch live, interact, and of course it will still post if you miss it and you can go watch it later. So tonight we would like to welcome Matt Durand. Welcome to the show, sir.
Yes, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yes. Now, so you publish your own comic books, but
Yep,
you do all the legwork yourself too, because you're currently not going through Diamond,
that's right.
and but you've still managed to get a great outreach because you reached us. You probably have reached other stores. We've had to do a couple different orders already to keep the book on the shelf, and sir, that's very impressive to me.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been a real hustle trying to get everything out there, and I just really love doing it. And it's been a passion of mine over the past, 5 years, trying to really make something of it. And it's just, I love all those aspects of it. So I write it, I do the lettering, I send them to the print shop. I go pick up the proofs, and then I get that physical product, and then I come try to talk to guys like you. And I mean, it's people like you that I can't thank enough for helping, get the work out there and really take a chance on somebody like me that's, really an unknown. But it's stuff like that that helps build that momentum and helps me keep going and just keep getting the work out there and meeting and getting out to new audiences. So yeah, it's been great so far.
Yeah, you've done a good job of it. Do you do any conventions as well in your area?
Yeah, so I really just started those this year. I'll send you a book if I get out some more dark guns to you. I'm also going to send you a issue of Tunnel Rat, which is a new book that I just came out with this year as well.
Oh, it actually hit already. That's great.
Well, yeah, we got it in print, and we have a couple copies that we've been just doing for conventions. So we just went to Mocha Fest in New York. That was like, I think just last month. So we went to that and we sold a bunch of the Dart Gun. We introduced Tunnel Rat and we sold a bunch of those. So that was really a great showing for us to get, kick off the new year. And I'll also be going to Terrific Con in Connecticut. That's in August. So I'll be there for that and just trying to get the books out there as well.
All right. Well, we've kind of jumped ahead because we're now already at the end of your entire process. Let's step back a
Sure, sure,
second. um,
sure.
and this is obviously a passion project for you. You seem to love comic books. In
Yeah.
fact, you mentioned comics in your bio under the things that you love, along with dogs. I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was beer on there? I think so.
Beer's
Dogs
on
and
there.
beer.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great. What's your favorite kind of dog? There is a
Uh,
correct answer, by the way.
so we have a she's a Shiba Inu Chow mix. So
Oh, nice.
I have to say I'm preferential to those types of breeds.
That's not bad. Does it have the chow coat?
Yeah, she's very fluffy. She's got the purple tongue.
Okay, that's all
So
right. I'll accept that. We have one who comes through the shop here all the time,
okay.
Shiba Inu, and I really like him.
Yeah,
But so let's go back here real quick.
sure.
How long have you been reading comic books?
Oh boy, so I probably started like seriously reading them like freshman year of high school. So I'd say that's a good like 18 years at this point, something like that.
Was
Somewhere
there
around there.
something? What was it that got you then as a freshman that was like, oh my god, I need to be part of this world?
Oh man, I found what came out at the time. So it was Ultimate X-Men by Mark Millar was coming out at the time.
Okay.
Um, Bendis's Power series was also coming out at the time. And I saw those series and I was like, oh my God, like this is comic books, I think especially with Powers, where it took it to this different level where it was adult content, it was a lot of dialogue, it was incredible dialogue, And just seeing that it could be something very cinematic and have this great storytelling quality to it was just like, man, I can't believe this is comics. You're so used to just seeing the superheroes all the time, and those are obviously great, but seeing that more independent press style of work was just incredible. And that's really what drew me in at the time.
And it was a good time too, because we'd had that long
Yeah.
stretch during the 90s when things had just really kind of gone a little too far. And right about
Right.
when you jumped on, I mean, that was kind of like the beginning of this independent renaissance in comic books. I mean, the things that they did
Yeah.
were just incredible. So
Yeah.
that was good time to jump on. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
now immediately back then, did you think this is something that you might like to do, or was this something that gradually grew?
Yeah, it gradually grew. So all throughout high school, I was really interested in film, and I wanted to actually be a filmmaker. And that's what I wanted to go to college for. But my mom was like, "No, you're not doing that. You're not going to college for that." So I ended up going to college for graphic design, and that just I really fell in love with graphic design as well. And it wasn't until maybe a good 5 or 6 years into my graphic design career that I was like, I love comics, I love design. Is there some way that I could kind of bridge the gap of those two things and really take the step into actually creating them? Because to me, comics were like the next best thing to making films. You're really just making like the storyboards of all those things. And that to me was like the next best thing. You could do a lot with it with, just me, and the people that I've worked with has been only on one other person. So you get like this whole film crew within two people, and you can make all the same great stories that you would with film. So that it was definitely more of a gradual build up to actually, making my first one.
Nice. And your profession of graphic design must lend itself very much to these comic books because you can do the lettering, the
Yep.
layouts, the covers, the entire thing.
Yep. Yeah, that helped a lot for sure. Just even knowing like all the print production aspects to it, being able to talk to printers and actually, understand what they're trying to say, and, pricing all that stuff out and figuring out, sizes, folds, and all that stuff that certainly came in handy going the self-publishing route with all this stuff for sure.
So now the first book that you put out,
Mhm.
was that ever, it was Relive, correct?
Yep. Yep.
And was it ever in print form, or is that only available online?
Yeah, that's only available online. We launched that one through Comixology, and that's where that one's lived so far. If we eventually get through the first arc, we might consider printing that one out in a trade. But right now, yeah, it's just through Comixology.
Now, who are you working on that with? Because you, I believe, you do the writing, the graphic design, the lettering, but somebody else does the art for that.
Yep. So that one I work with Orion Zangara. I think he's best known for the Stone Man mysteries. That's his like big one right there. And I found him through the Kubert School, actually. When I first started trying to get this process going, I reached out to them and was like, is there anybody that might be interested in, collaborating on a project? And they sent me towards him, and, liked his stuff, and we went from there.
That's pretty awesome that they actually replied to you, because I would have
Yeah.
imagined they probably get so many people who are like, "Hey, I
Yeah.
want your artist," that they just ignore it. So there must have
Yeah.
been something that they saw there to put you in
Yeah.
touch with him.
Yeah, I know. I was surprised myself because I reached out to a few places and a few other schools, and you know this was for me, at least for me anyways, this was before I was on Twitter or anything like that. So actually finding people uh, to collaborate with, for even just talking to them, was a big deal. So the fact that they actually responded was huge.
And the fact that he was interested and you guys have gone forward with it. So,
Right.
how many issues are up on Comixology right now, and how many total is it going to be?
So we have the first issue out we did in color, but that was like my first one, so it wasn't up to par as to what I was hoping with, and I feel like I've developed a little bit more skills and done some more studying on lettering and things of the sort. So I ended up re-releasing the first issue that we called Relive Redux, which is basically just the first issue, all black and white, relettered, uh, edited down 1 or 2 pages. So that's up there. We just finished issue 2 and submitted that like last month. So that should be up within the next few weeks. So that's book 2. And the first arc is 6 issues, and I have about, I think, 9 issues written at this point of
Wow.
the
Okay,
series.
you're very far ahead now.
Yep.
Quick question about the coloring: did you take the coloring out because it didn't necessarily fit what you were doing, or did you take it out because it was one more step that you potentially needed to save for something for another project?
Yeah, I mean, so Orion was like, let me try it. He's like, let me take on the coloring detail. And I think he did a good job for it. But just going forward from, I think it was one part in the tone. I think the tone of the story better fit with going the black and white route. And then there was, the financial piece of that where, it costs more to color. So we're like, let's just go the black and white route and keep that as the main visual style for the series.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to take all of the, especially the financial stuff in with the small press, because sometimes it can be really difficult to make your money back. That's why people
Right.
who do small press generally do it because they love it to begin with,
Right.
and then you can start
Yep.
making money later on.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's really what it's been like. That's the way I look at it right now, is not a money making endeavor. Like, if I get money, yeah, sure, that's great. But to me, it's, I just want to be able to keep doing it and building that audience and trying to reach people. Going to the conventions to me is great, where you can actually, see your audience right there and talk to them about it. And you're actually dealing with people that like comic books. So that to me has been a big aspect of this whole undertaking.
It is really neat in this community because the readers have such a connection to the creators and they want to know more about them. They want to talk to them. That's why the cons are so much fun. And it's got
Yeah.
to feel great, especially with Dark Gun #2, to see some repeat people come in and
Right.
getting it. That's got to be great because they didn't just pick it up and then forget about it. They've been waiting for this second issue.
Right. Right. Yeah. And it's like, the tough part is that I am small press, so trying to keep up with like that monthly schedule is obviously a little challenging. But the people that do actually come back and stick with us, and are looking for the next ones, they are coming. They might not just be like right on that monthly schedule, but we're invested in it, and we want to keep pushing them out as quickly as we can, but maintain that quality at the same time. So.
And I think the fans of independent comics really do appreciate that it's not your main source of income, that you can't put this out monthly. It would be almost impossible. So I
Right.
think they're a little more forgiving with schedules. And I also think that they would rather have you give the best possible work you could rather than just get something into their hands.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. For sure.
So we skipped over it completely. Will you give everybody a little rundown on what Relive is so that they can go check it out on Comixology?
Yeah, of course. So Relive really came from this idea of memories. And to me, it really spawned out of loss. I lost my mother to cancer when I was 21. And over those years, the saddest thing to me was more the fact of how your memories fade and you start to lose aspects of those people. So that was really sort of where it came from, the whole idea of the story. So I wanted to take that idea of being able to relive any memory that you've ever had throughout all of your life and have it feel so real and like you're actually there. But for a comic book medium, then I was thinking, well, why don't I set this within the spy community? So it really follows these dueling spy agencies, one being the US and then one being in Russia. And there's this famous scientist that creates this device that lets you relive any memory that you've ever had. So these two spy agencies see the potential of how they can use that within, warfare or spying or whatever it might be. And the first arc that we're dealing with follows everybody trying to find this scientist and find this device. And that's really what the first arc really entails.
Okay, nice. That was a nice little thing without giving anything really away too, which is very nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can go over and check it out on Comixology, guys. Go take a peek. Do you know what the price is on the 2 issues?
So on Comixology, they're $1.99.
Oh, that's not bad. You can't go wrong with that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the book that we found you with was Dark Gun.
Yep.
And we, like I said, have had to do a couple different reorders because it keeps selling off the shelf. We're going to have to do yet another one so we can get issue 1 and 2 in here.
Yeah,
and
great.
give them a rundown. I mean, it doesn't seem to need any help going off of the shelf, but let's give them a reason to have them put it in the saver so we can do yet another order.
Sure. So the short pitch of the Dark Gun is really it follows this supernatural gun that possesses people in different ways across 5 different generations of people. So that's like the short version of it. But really the inspiration came from the movie The Red Violin. If anybody's familiar with that, it was a movie that came out in the late 90s, and that really just followed similar premise but with a violin, and it was mainly in Europe and Asia. And it was really just these different stories of how people interacted with this object. And I thought that was a really interesting idea, and I wanted to take it to America, and then I wanted to take it in the context of a gun just because, that one interests me, and I think it's something too that's also current and relevant to what's going on in America with all the shootings and the gun violence. And I wanted this to be something that was self-contained. So each story you could pick it up and get something from it. And each issue I wanted to have it explore some sort of different theme around gun violence in America without really glorifying it in the typical sense that you would normally see in, comics or film. So that's really where the Dark Gun kind of spawned from.
Okay, and who did you work with on the art?
So the artist is Talon Curtilis. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce his last name, but he's actually originally from Turkey, and he lives in New Jersey right now.
Okay, well, he did a fantastic job as well. It was really neat when I sat down to read it. It was completely self-contained, which caught me off guard, but it was a nice wrap. And what's interesting is it looks as if you're going to be able to read almost any issue individually. You'll just get more if you follow it all the way through. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So there's these tiny little threads throughout each one that sort of tie it together and make everything, where if you read it from start to finish, you get some of that linear thread throughout it that brings everything together. But yeah, if you picked up, issue 4 and read that, you would still have, a complete, concise story. And that was really just a challenge for myself personally too on this series, was trying to keep it more concise and contained. Because with Relive, that one, it was a longer series, and I think starting out that was probably a little bit too ambitious. Obviously I hope we'll get further along with that, but that was just, I think, too big an idea to start with. So coming off of that and learning from everything was like, okay, what can I do differently now where I can tell a story but keep it shorter and still keep people engaged and go from there.
Okay, well, it seems to be working, which is great. How many issues are we going to have for this one?
So this will be 6 total.
Okay, so that's just a nice
Yep.
little book there to be able to put out, and then move on to something else because you got a bunch of stuff in the works now. And I'm
Yep.
also excited to hear that Tunnel Rat made it into print, so we can get some of those in the shop as well.
Yep.
If for those of you who don't know what a Tunnel Rat is, why don't you tell them what the premise of the book is?
Sure. So for those that don't know, during the Vietnam War, there was an elaborate tunnel system, underground tunnel system that the Viet Cong would use to avoid bombing runs and just navigate through the jungle a lot easier than what the Americans would have to deal with above ground. So tunnel rats were typically American soldiers that would be volunteers that would go into these tunnels and try to clear them of any enemy soldiers that are actually there. So the premise of this book follows a U.S. Marine that gets trapped in the tunnel system, and he ends up befriending a viper. And oftentimes they would use these snakes or vipers as booby traps within the tunnels. So he ends up befriending this snake, and it follows their journey of trying to escape the tunnels together.
Okay, now is that one going to be like a 6 issues too, or we just get a couple issues as they do this?
So that one is going to be a 4-issue miniseries.
Okay,
Yep.
and I gotta say this. Hopefully, it comes across. I'll have to wait till I see it. But the
Sure.
idea of being down there is absolutely terrifying, especially being trapped. That
Yeah.
it blows my mind to think that to be in those shoes.
Right. Exactly. And so, like that one, I compare to like if you were to combine two movies, like I look at that one as like the movie of Platoon and Life of Pi, if you're familiar with those movies or books. So it's really, when I tell people that he's like befriending a snake, I feel like that gets like a little weird to people. But once you like get through it, you sort of see some of these deeper connections that I'm trying to make with that character of the actual snake. And there's some stuff at the end that is left open to interpretation of why that character is actually there. So
Now, does the snake talk?
he does talk. Yeah.
He does. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. The
Yeah.
artwork is beautiful. You showed me a few of the pages,
Yeah.
but where did you find this gentleman? Because that one I like a lot.
Yeah, so the artist I'm working on with that is Earl Womack, and it was just pure coincidence that we met. I work in New Haven, Connecticut here, and there's this local print shop that we often would go to just to get like random small jobs done for work. And I was in there one day, and I saw this guy just cutting these like posters of some of his comic book artwork, and I was like, "Holy!" Can I swear on here, or should I try to avoid that?
Try to avoid it, please.
Okay, yeah. So I was like, "Holy crap!" Like that's some really amazing artwork. So I just went up to him and I said, "Are you available? Like what's your page rates? Do you want to possibly do anything?" And at the time, all I had really done was the first issue of Relive, so I didn't really have even much to show him. But I had this idea of Tunnel Rat already going, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll talk to you for a little bit, see what your pitch is." And I pitched him Tunnel Rat, and I told him the whole story. I showed him Relive, and luckily for me, he agreed to do it, and we've been friends since, and we've been working on it since then.
That's great. That's really cool. And
Yeah.
we got the first issue, only 3 more to go, so this will be really neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is fantastic. I'm glad you took some time to join us because what you're doing is something that a lot of people want to do. The people who love comic books generally, if you talk to them, 95% of them are going to say, I would love to put out a comic. I have an idea.
Sure.
But you have actually taken it to the next level. It's not easy. It's time consuming. It's expensive. I
Yeah.
mean, people, you have to understand that this man has a full-time job, and
Yeah.
he's coming home and dedicating it to writing, editing, graphic design. And is it, if you had to give some advice to people who want to do this, what would be the most important thing that you would say?
Oh man. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot, a lot I've been learning over the past few years doing this. I think probably the biggest thing is uh, not getting not getting too discouraged from the failures that you go through, and being able to really self-critique what you've done and what you've actually made, and try to learn from that, and always be pushing yourself to try and do better, and keep trying to get out there and keep trying to make stuff. That's really the biggest thing is, for me, I'd rather have tried making comics and failed at it than I would have just thought about doing it and never actually tried. Because that to me would always be a regret that I had with that. So to me, it's just keep doing it, keep trying, and there's always room for improvement. Even if you're the best in the business, I'm sure even those guys are always trying to get better at what they do. So it's just don't really give up at that point.
No, I think that's actually very good advice because I imagine that a lot of people, even if they get started, it can be very discouraging because it is a lot of hard work. So
Yeah.
just the persistence and keeping things going, continuing to write. I mean, how exciting is it for you still probably to see these pages come into you when the artists are done with
Yeah. Yeah, it's so cool. And I mean, honestly, like being at the conventions too, because you have like so much self-doubt because you're in, like, at least for me anyways, I'm in like my own world. It's really just me and the artists that are ever looking at this stuff. So I feel so contained that it's only just me and him seeing it. So I'm always like, oh, it's not good, or I could fix this, or I could fix that, or people are going to hate this. And when you send it out and then you don't get responses from people, then you just start doubting yourself more. But then when you go to the conventions and people actually buy it, complete strangers, it's not just like, oh, my dad picked up 5 copies. It's
it.
like,
You'll sell them 5 copies too, but
yeah, yeah. But it's just like, oh, here's a complete stranger that, is just taking a glance at this, and, he'll hear the elevator pitch and be like, that sounds really cool, and I'll take a chance on that. And just getting that positive feedback and encouragement really has been great to me and helps me keep going and keep wanting to, follow through with all this.
yeah, and it is nice to actually communicate and to connect with the readers to hear some feedback too, because feedback is always useful, whether it's good, bad, negative, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's helpful. So, where can they? Well, obviously, we can find Relive on Comixology.
Yep.
Where can they find Dark Gun and Tunnel Rat besides Empire's Comics?
Yep. So they go to my website. It's mattdurand.work, and they could buy any of the digital versions are on there, and they could get the print versions of Dark Gun 1, 2, and the first issue of Tunnel Rat.
Okay, that's awesome. And where can they find you? Which social media do you use?
So I'm mainly just on Twitter, and that's Matt Durand USA.
Okay, that's perfect.
Yep.
So you guys can follow him there. Go to the website, of course, because you're going to want to see updates, what's coming. You can get the digital copies. You can have him ship you some. But follow him on Twitter to find out more about when things are coming, what else he has planned. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Matt. It was great talking to you. I just have one final question.
Sure.
Soft serve or traditional ice cream?
I'd have to go with traditional.
Good man, good man. All right, that ended on a good note. Thank you again for joining us. It was really great to talk to you. I'm looking forward to getting the rest of those books in the shop and continuing to get the word out there for you so we can keep seeing issues.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for taking a chance on me. Honestly, it means the world to me, and I appreciate it so much. So honestly, thank you so much.
You got it, sir. I'm happy to do it. So, all right, everybody, make sure you go check out his website, check out the Twitter, and then when we get the books in here, check out the books on the shelf. We will see you guys in the shop. And Matt, good luck with everything. I will talk to you soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
You too.